Thank you. Thanks. All right. I'm here with a bit of a pep talk, so I guess brace yourselves. I want to talk about a thing that I have thought a lot about and we at Sanity are thinking a lot about. And that is how developers and content creators can work better together. And I hope I can entertain you for this 10 minutes and hopefully also teach you something so you can take that back to your teams and where you work and leave you with some advice. So if you look at conversations that happens in the front-end scene on this stage today, you'll find a lot of discussion about performance. We obsess about shaving those seconds, even milliseconds, from page loads to improve the user experience. And often it's framed as developer experience is prioritized at the cost of user experience on the web. And what we're talking about is basically we are making people wait for something to appear in the browser, and that's bad, and I agree. But what are they waiting for? They're waiting for some content that they're going to interact with. And it is someone's job to make that content and place it in a place where they can be included on a web. And I have a feeling we don't talk a lot about those people. And the quality of that content is tied to those people's ability to actually do their work and what hoops they have to jump through and so on. So I want to talk about this today. But first I have to introduce myself and give you a bit of background why I'm here and talking about this. So let's start at the start. This is me in the mid-80s, makes me feel a bit old, over 35 years ago. I'm getting into computers. This is before the web was even created. The internet was a thing, but yeah. But I'm instantly fascinated by these things and what they let us do. Jump 15 years later, I've grown my hair out, I played in a band, and as everyone knows, maybe, if you played in a band in the early 2000s, the most important thing you could do was to tend to your online brand. So the way to do that was to learn HTML, which I kind of did and still am. And this was super empowering. It was like I could write some code, publish on the web, and maybe hundreds of people, or maybe thousands, if I were lucky, could see this. And I felt pretty empowered and confident in this technology. And I suspect a lot of you can relate to this. Fast forward 10 years. I had to cut my hair, I didn't become a rock star or a full-time developer. I was still working on my unfinished PhD in the humanities. But I brought a lot of the things that I learned in web development into my academic content creation. And in the center of this, I was writing Markdown. It was great. It was a simple syntax that I kind of knew from my freelance work. And in fact, I had this whole sweet setup going where I could write in multi-Markdown and get it transformed to PDF via LaTeX, and I had live preview, and it was great. For 2 weeks, this actually worked. And maybe you can recognize this, advanced build pipelines and stuff. Doesn't matter if you don't know the logos. But again, my confidence really, really grew in my ability to tinker with these things and understand it. In fact, I was mega serious about Markdown, as you can see in this photo. I actually wrote to my university newspaper about how everyone should learn Markdown. It's going to change your life. And I was so deep into this bubble, and I was not seeing beyond my life experience, being into computers from an early age. And I thought my way of working with these things should be the way everyone should be working with these things. I guess I still do that, but yeah. Anyways, I pivoted out of academia and into a design and user experience agency. And as a technology consultant, it was my job to help clients with their goals. And the more I talked to these clients, I realized that they are working with very complex things with limited resources. And a lot of people, they don't feel empowered by technology, they feel stupid. Which is very unfair because technology are supposed to serve us, not the other way around. So I started to spend more time talking to content creators about when I set up their CMS to kind of clean it up and make it usable. And that made me somewhat of a CMS nerd, which explains why I'm now working for Sanity, where we are CMS nerds and trying to figure all of this stuff out. So that's the backstory. What we're basically asking you all is to consider how your developer experience priorities affects content creators. Of course, Sanity has great solutions for this, but this is a month for everyone. And to make some great choices for people who has other responsibilities. So let me start with a spicy one. We have to let go of Markdown, folks. I'm sorry. It's fine for your blog or your project, but we really need to stop expecting people to actually learn this stuff. And if you say, oh, Knut, the syntax is wrong, yeah, that's the point. There are great text editors out there you can use. Like, take this document. This is supposed to be the Markdown for this age, MDX. It's super cool that this works, amazing, but doesn't make a lot of sense to most people outside of this circle. The second point is something we care a lot about at Sanity, collaboration. Like, just as developers, content creators need to collaborate, and they need to get kind of like that real-time feedback. And sometimes we give them this. This is GitHub. This is not great for content creators. Git diffs was never designed for content. It's hard enough for us to kind of like do a merge conflict git rebase. Like, how can we expect content creators to deal with this stuff? And we forget that content creation comes with different constraints than coding. Like, the fact that most content creators have started to expect to be able to work in real time. Even coders can do that now. And that tools sync state over devices, and that there's no save button. But for some reason, in the CMS space, we give them save buttons, and we can give them race conditions. If you recognize this tool, this was the tool that I got up and running fastest to make this example. Like, there's a lot of systems out there that allows you to overwrite someone else's content. Is this what kind of like we are giving to content creators? And there's a solve for this. Like, you can lock the document, but like, come on, it's 2022. Who locks documents in 2022? Like WordPress does. So how do we find this acceptable? And talking about WordPress, I owe my career to WordPress. It let me give non-developers a way to publish on the web. It was great. But then my career turned into kind of like helping people get out of WordPress and kind of like jumbled mess that they have created, and removing things that made people kind of like shoot themselves in the foot when they created content. And WordPress has kind of turned into this, like a lot of flexibilities and buttons and stuff, but not that much focus on the content creation. And we expect people to take a lot of very complex decisions in a multi-device responsive web. And it's not good enough. But content creators need variations and flexibility, but there's a way to give them this without all of these buttons. But you have to kind of like think about it and be intentional. We're at JamSapConf, and most of us make websites with a modern framework where the content is fetched from elsewhere, like from one of the people behind the wall here in the sponsors. And this is great for us, but it's not great for content creators because they don't see what their edits is going to do. They need the context. So it's super important that we actually facilitate these previews and make them real time. Like, developers want kind of like hot reloading. Content creators want the same. They don't want to wait for your site to build. And they also don't just need to see the page. They need to see where this content is ending up elsewhere, in social and SERP and stuff. And we need to give them these tools. And to figure all of this out, you actually have to talk to content creators and figure out what they need. and why they need it. So you don't suddenly add hex values to your content and so on, but get the real intentional variations. And don't break the design system that you spend a lot of time actually baking into the CSS. So we need to understand the needs of content creators better. At Santi, we're still working to figure all of this out, but I invite all of you to do the same and go to this URL, which was built in HTML. I did a old school HTML thing over the weekend. So we gathered these principles there, and you can go and check them out. And come talk to us about challenges and solutions, creating kind of like CMSs and Markdown stuff and so on, all of those things. We love to talk about that. And yeah, hopefully you took something away from this. Thank you for listening.